Hello, happy people. So the question for this video is, what do I know about police academies? And so I'm going to share some of that information. So I'm based in California, so we have about 56 to 58 programs depending on the time of year. And the police academies are divided into North California and South California districts according to post. And most police academies that you go through in California allowed you to work for pretty much any police or sheriff's agency. The only exception to that is the California Highway Patrol, which requires you to go to their own academy in Sacramento, California, and the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, requires you to go to their own academy. Now, San Francisco and Oakland have gotten together and they have their own police academy. And so I think that if you apply for San Francisco, you may be going to that academy, but they're so desperate right now for laterals. I have a feeling that if you have the academy already under your belt and some law enforcement experience, you can probably get hired by them if you decide to do so. Now, in my previous videos, I've always told you to avoid small departments because they're very political. Not to say that if you have a small town you want to work for and that's what you aim for, that's totally okay. It's just that in larger departments, you're going to have more opportunities for special assignments, higher salaries, better equipment, and the shift goes by pretty fast, which no one wants to be bored, including police officers, deputy sheriffs, etc. So let's talk about the actual academy. In California, if you decide to go through some program like San Joaquin Delta College in Stockton, California has, you are signing up for 18 college units. And so these are certificated units, and check into it. You may be able to use the California Promise Grant if you're a first-time college student. Now, you graduate high school, you're 18. Should you go right into the police academy? And the answer is no. And why is because Senate Bill 2, SB 2, passed a few years ago, and it requires any peace officer to be at least age 21 or older. So if you're 18, just graduated high school, you are best advised to go enroll in a community college program and get your 2-year degree in administration of justice or criminal justice. Now, I know that some of the viewers that watch my channel have commented on other great degrees you should get besides criminal justice. I urge you not to pay attention to that. Think about this for a minute. You're 18 years old, just graduated high school. You can't do anything with your time but commit to a college degree to prepare yourself for a career in law enforcement. And your time and effort is best invested in a 2-year program, which is, even though we call it the major, it's your minor because it's a 2-year college degree. Now, when you transfer to a 4-year program, it's totally up to you if you want to do a 4-year program in criminal justice or get into something that's more broad, like management, right? Where you can apply that to criminal justice or other fields, etc., etc. So I do urge you to get that 2-year degree. Now, you're 18, you get your 2-year degree, now you're 20-ish, 20-something, 20 and a half. It's a great time to go in the police academy. But did you know that in California, when you're done with the academy, you basically have only 3 years to get hired before that academy expires? So the academy is a certificated program. You can go through the academy as an independent student. Maybe you didn't know that, and pay your way through the academy, pay your uniforms, pay your ammunition. Maybe, if you have a gun, obviously you're going to need a gun, you're going to need a holster, all that stuff. Those are additional fees. But again, check into various programs, various colleges. I know years ago, Golden West College in Huntington Beach, which I attended for my dispatch training course, did have a police academy on the actual campus. And so Fresno also has a similar program. I'm not sure if it's in place or not, but just keep in mind of that 3-year window. I put myself through years ago as an independent. I was agency sponsored because I was a reserve officer for that department. They did pay for my ammunition But now, if you're going to put yourself through as an independent, you obviously have to pay for the ammunition yourself. Now let's talk about the program real quick. I'm switching things very quickly because I want you to understand what it entails. If you want to find out what are you going to learn in the academy, that information is contained in a binder called the California Peace Officers Legal Source Book, the CPLOS, right? And so in that book contains a bunch of knowledge domains or learning domains, depending on which program you're going to be in. And so when you get into the police academy, you're going to be taking tests on those learning domains. Most of the time, you're going to have major exams that contain various LDs or KDs, learning domains or knowledge domains. Usually you have 2 attempts to pass the exam. If you flunk the first attempt, you have one more attempt, and if you flunk that, then you're out of the academy. It doesn't matter if you're in your last week. Now, how long is the police academy? 4.5 months to 5 months, depending on the program. California High Patrol may be 6 months, because they do have a component at the end of their program that includes EMT training, emergency medical technician training. So in the academy, besides the learning domains and all the knowledge that you're going to have, you need to do physical activities. Post Peace Officer Standards and Training wants you to run 1.5 miles in under 12 minutes, and that's the guidelines. You need to jump over a 6-foot wall, solid wall, usually made of wood, or a chain link fence. You have to drag a dummy, you have to do a 99 obstacle course, and so these are just some of the tests that you'll have to do. Some others include some push-ups, some pull-ups, etc. So physical ability is a big part of the police academy. So if you're thinking about going through, see how tall you are and what's the weight you're supposed to be, and try to stick to that training. Now, dexterity skills is another area that a lot of recruits don't pay attention to. Dexterity skills is your hands to be able to shoot the firearm, to be able to put somebody in a handcuff technique, to put them, in a hold before you put the cuffs on them, to be able to take them down to the ground, with combative subjects, etc. So go online and buy one of those little devices that you can adjust the strength so that it's a hand gripper, and while you're watching TV, do about 10 to 15 reps, 3 of them each side of your hands, one left hand, one right hand, switch them back and forth to really grab and build your wrist and hand strength. You need to have that. So that's, we talked about physical, we talked about dexterity. You have to also shoot a firearm. I recommend, because I carried it right before getting into becoming a professor. I worked as a reserve officer after I left full-time, and I shot a Glock 40. I love the Glock weapon. Why? It's not very heavy, it's very accurate, it's trouble-free, and it's very dependable and reliable. Now, I carried a 9mm for years, and even though you may have, depending on the weapon, 1 or 2 extra rounds, when I was shooting down those metal targets during the police academy training, it's easier to shoot those targets with a 40 caliber versus a 9mm where you have to do a double tap. So check into it. You can go to your local city range or find out if there's a private range that you can go and learn how to shoot firearms. Okay, so we talked about those things. So what's my next step, right? You have to disconnect from any distraction while you're in the academy, because you're going to have one test after another test after another test, and you're going to have to not be timid or lack confidence, because they're going to get some drama students to be role players, and you're going to have to get in there and take command of the situation. So it's not going to be one of those things where you go in there, excuse me, can you please, no, like, hey, to be able to go like that, to be able to go from 0 to 100, learn the escalation of force, learn the de-escalation of force. But again, being timid, lacking confidence is not going to be part of this. So pay close attention, because you get graded in the academy depending how you do in these scenarios. First, you get trained what to do, right, in the scenario. So you're investigating a homicide. You have to do this, you have to do that. You have to definitely learn what to ask in these homicide calls. And then you then have to, when you go into the scenario with the role player, there's going to be a person jotting down your performance. So did you go in there, did you take command of the situation? Did you do what you were supposed to do? Because you can fail in these scenarios if when you get there, you don't take command of the situation, you don't ask the right questions, you don't collect the proper information, you don't request for an ambulance, you don't, etc., etc. So keep that in mind. Now, some of you have reached out to me asking if it's a good idea to be agency sponsored while you go through the academy. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice to be getting paid while you go through the academy, but the issue comes if your agency is constantly nagging on you while you're going to the academy. Hey, why are you only scoring a B on these tests? Hey, why are you doing a B minus? Hey, why aren't you scoring A's? Why aren't you, being the leader of the pack? That kind of stuff. If that's the case, you're going to have extra stress on yourself. So I recommend putting yourself through as an independent. You don't have that stress. The other part of this is, and I'm talking kind of fast because I want you to go to sleep, right? I'm kidding. Is you might apply to agencies like I did while you're in the academy, and you obviously have to do some background, check to find out what they're going to ask you during these interviews. And so you need to decide, are you going to apply to these agencies while you're in the academy, or should you focus all of your energy and attention, right? Where energy, goes, or focus goes, energy flows. And so should you focus on just graduating the academy and then start applying to a bunch of different departments, at least 10, and so forth. Again, I'm going to finish the video here in a second. Think about what I told you. Right now in California, you are required, before even starting the academy, to take the post-Pellet B exam. It's a written exam that you have to pass before you're able to apply. Usually it's only good for a year. So if you're 18, you're in high school, graduated high school, I would recommend waiting, getting your 2-year college degree where you're going to learn about evidence processing, the roots of our criminal justice system, principles and procedures, community relations, criminal investigation, and other elective courses that are going to prepare you for the field of law enforcement. Now, there's a ton of agencies in California, close to, I believe, 519, 520. So there's a bunch of things that you could do. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be on patrol. You could work for the Department of Motor Vehicles as an investigator. You could get hired by a sheriff's office. You're working boat patrol out there, jet skiing patrol. You're working canine after you've been a police officer for a while. There's a bunch of assignments to do. If you decide that you have other topics that you'd like me to talk about, on the comments section, go ahead and fill it in. Say, hey, can you talk about these things? I am a college professor. I am teaching criminal justice courses, actively teaching these. And so it's important that you listen to the advice I have on these videos, as this is practical advice, which means it applies to real life. Now, you can learn a bunch of stuff from books, and books is theory, and theory is not going to get you hired in law enforcement. You need to have a combination of theory and practical experience and knowledge so that you're able to pass the interview to become a police officer, deputy sheriff, etc., whatever job you want to do on patrol. I thank you for your time. Please subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already done so, and or forward this video to someone else who's thinking about going to the police academy, or maybe has questions on, should I wait, should I go, etc. I love you guys. Please continue watching these videos. My goal is to prepare you for a high-paying career with great medical benefits, great retirement, and you're serving the public. You're a public servant. There's a ton of jobs out there, and you should be paying attention to this, planting the seeds now for the future self. Take good care of yourself, be safe, and watch your actions in the future.